Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about approval process in Salesforce. So if we will think in terms of the business and we will need to have any kind of approval process for anything what we have in our organization, let's say for example for any kind of equipment setup that we need to buy, or for example for any kind of change of the schedule, we need to have a possibility for us to specify approval process. An approval process in Salesforce is such kind of, let's say, out-of-the-box tool that allowing us to specify that process. And let's talk about basic functionality of that approval process in Salesforce. So first of all, for your information, you need to understand that not all, let's say, objects are actually supported via the approval process. So that means that before then you will decide if that specific object could be used in the approval process, what you need to do is you need to go to the setup, you need to find the specific approval process menu item, click on it, and then in terms of the list of available objects you need to validate how many if that specific object is actually exists in that list or not. So once you realize that it exists, then you could plan your approval process strategy. So that means that what you need to do is you need to discuss with the business what kind of approval steps are actually required, what kind of acknowledgement actions and all the stuff need to be done, what kind of fields need to be updated after each step, and how it should look like. Let me give you an example. So in Salesforce what we have is we have a functionality where we could provide multi-steps approval process. So that means that, for example, if you are having something to buy in your organization and you first of all need to have an approval from your manager, then once that manager approved it, you should go an approval from the financial department and then from the director of that region. So in that case it will be 3 steps approval process, and for example after each of the steps what you could do is you could perform in Salesforce such kind of actions like, for example, email sending or a field update. And you could decide if you would like to have on the actual layout of the object field which will represent you where you are with that specific object. Like for example, if it was approved for the first stage, you could specify it, let's say initial approval, second level approval and third level approval, and after that move it to the approved stage. Also what you could define is you could define what actually the approver will be able to see. Like for example, if there will be the certain amount of fields that you need to display for different record types of that record. So that means that you could divide your approval process into a couple of them, and for each and specific one of them you could show the appropriate approval page layout. Of course it's possible to do with the customizations, like for example include screen flow into the approval request page. But if you would like to just configure it with a standard manner, so then you could do it like this. Like for example, once you will divide your approval process, for example, based on the record type, and then via out-of-the-box functionalities that you have in the approval process, you could configure what kind of exact fields you would like to show. So one is done and you are set, so you could think about these roles that we just mentioned, like for example manager approval, director approval. So there might be situations when there are pool of managers, or for example pool of some another persons who need to actually approve your approval process. In that case what you could do is you could create actually a queue, and you could assign that specific approval request to that queue. And in that queue you will need to just mention that it's accepting, let's say, emails sent to the queue to be sent to the to the queue members. In that case you will be able to even send your specific approval process to the group of users, and you could specify what kind of actions are required. Let's say if at least one approval will be here, or everyone need to from that queue to approve it. Or if you already know that, for example, in terms of the region director, that it's a specific person with a specific role, you could mention that specific role in your approval process. So once it's done and you specify it, let's say, and understand in terms of planning of your approval process, who will be approvers, what should be the order, how it should be represented on the layout, what kind of fields you would like to show, you could actually